In our final section looking at getting started with SPSS syntax, we're actually going to look at something called the production facility. And the production facility is a really useful utility within SPSS statistics that makes automation easier for people that want to automate their analysis. It is possible to automate your analysis using a combination of the production facility and SPSS syntax. It's not essential that you use the production facility. You can actually automate your analysis just using syntax itself, but the production facility makes it a little bit easier because it allows users to run one or more syntax jobs and export the output in a particular format, such as an SPV format, an SPSS viewer file, or as PDF, or as a .doc file to a pre-specified location. And it has two modes. One is the interactive mode, and this is when the program runs unattended in a separate session on either your local computer, your laptop, or a remote server. Your local computer, your laptop would have to remain on and connected to the remote server if applicable, if you are using a server. You don't have to, you can simply run in interactive mode on a local machine. And it runs until the job is complete. In the background on the server, it really expects you to have a server version of SPSS. The program runs in a separate session on a separate machine, a remote server, and your computer does not have to remain on and does not have to remain connected to the remote server. So it's when you really start to scale things up. Now you can disconnect and retrieve the results later, but if you want to access the production facility, you simply go to within SPSS statistics, utilities production facility. You'll see it here at the bottom of the utilities menu. Now, when you open up the production facility dialog, there's a number of elements to it that you need to be familiar with. The first is if you want to add in one or more syntax jobs, you do so by clicking on this little green plus sign here. And that allows you to add in your first syntax job. You can add multiple ones, you know, from different jobs. In our example here, we're just going to use one. And then number two here, this bit is highlighted here, is saying, well, where do you want the results of this syntax to go, and on what format do you want them? So I'm reading data here, a syntax job from the ctemp folder, and I'm exporting them back out to the ctemp folder. So the results are going out as an SPSS viewer file. They could be another file format. It could be, you know, a doc file, or it could be a PDF or something like that, or even PowerPoint. And then part three is, well, you got to specify a name and location for your production job, because basically production job is a sort of, it's a file that wraps these two bits together, if you like. It references, it keeps information about the SPS file and the SPV file. So it's yet another file type. It's called an SPJ file. That's a production job. And then if you just want to run it, yeah, you run, you click run, which is step 4 here, and that would run the job for you. If you've already got a production job, you would use the browse button here to open that production job, and you would see it fill up with the syntax files that production job uses and any output that job uses. So to illustrate that, we can just jump out to SPSS statistics here. I've got a sample syntax file here. Let me just close this down, so we get rid of that, and we'll go out to SPSS. In fact, we could actually change this and basically start with almost a blank copy of SPSS. So we don't need any of these syntax jobs that we've got open. We can close them all down. We can close down the output. We don't need that, and we can take all of this syntax away till eventually we just got a blank data editor window open. And if I go to utilities, production facility, it's already open here at this point in time, so it's actually got, from an earlier session, it's got .sps open. So that's I found that by clicking on my plus sign here and selecting sample syntax, clicking open, and that you can see it's opened another copy of it and get rid of it. You can see that it's saving it as example.spj. That's simply because I've said save as example.spj. And you can see that the output here is an SPV file, but here are all the other different types of output I have. And then if I just run that, it says it already exists, you want to override it, and I say yes. And it runs it interactively, as you can see. Click OK at that point. It's now running that procedure, and it will produce that SPV file, if you like, in the background. It'll successfully complete. So once it's done that, we can just skip out and have a look at the SPV file. It says the job is finished, close, and then we can skip out to a copy, open that SPV file simply by going to File, Open, Output. There it is. It's called test.spv, and this is the results of it. Now, if I want to automate that procedure, I can do so, but I'm going to have to take a slightly different approach. So it turns out that both SPSS syntax files, those are the files that we create in the syntax editor itself, which have given the extension .sps, and also production files. These are the files that the production facility creates, which of course can contain multiple syntax files, and these are given the extension .spj. Both of these types of files can be executed from a command line. And if you don't know what a command line is simply a prompt where you can type in instructions to a operating system, such as a Windows prompt. Now, the way in which we can type in the instructions or feed the instructions to Windows is using another type of file called a .bat file. And if that seems confusing, just bear in mind the .bat file is simply a text file with the extension .bat, so you can create a .bat file, which is an old DOS file, using Notepad. All you got to do is open a text editor and save it as .bat, and inside that text editor you got to type in where it can find the SPSS executable. So it might be on D program files or C program files, but you basically give it the address. And then you give it if an optional mode. So we tell it that we're running in production here. So we're saying, I want to use the production facility. And you tell it that you want to run it in silent mode. The silent mode here simply means that it doesn't physically load the production facility, so you don't see it. It's just happening in the background. And then lastly, you simply tell it the name of the file that you want to execute. So the production file itself, example.spj, and you tell it where that is. So it literally looks like this. I mean, here we have a copy in Notepad, and you can see I've got, to begin with, the address, where is SPSS stats.exe, and then I've put -production. I want to use production mode against stats.exe, and I want to run it in silent so that it doesn't open the full production facility. And then I simply tell it where my file example.spj is, and I save it as .bat. So I've got one here called SPSS batch example.bat. Simple as that, really not that complicated. If you wanted to execute that, you could execute it literally by double clicking on it. So if I just skip out here and show you, here's one that I've created earlier. So here I have, and I can edit this in Notepad++. This is just the instruction there. Nothing terribly exciting about it. It's just exactly what we've seen already. And if I double click on it, you can see immediately the prompt, the command line prompt opens up. You saw briefly there the SPSS logo come up for a second, and it's basically giving that file to the production mode, and it creates this SPV file in the background. But what happens if I wanted to not run that by double clicking on it, but instead run it against a scheduler of some sort, where it turns out that there are various scheduler programs you can use, and one of the ones you can use is actually in Windows itself, and it's called the task scheduler. If you want to find the task scheduler, you simply type in to the search box in Windows task scheduler, and that will open up. So when the task scheduler is launched, you can click create a basic task to get started, and it says okay, that starts a little wizard for you, and it says okay, what do you want to call this task? We call it SPSS example. We click next. It says when do you want the task to start? We want it to run just once, not daily, weekly, or monthly. For demonstration purposes, you can have it once, but you can have it, obviously you can run it when the computer starts, you can run it on a monthly basis. So if you're doing regular reports, you can see how this becomes very powerful and compelling. And then it says, okay, well, when do you want it to run this one time? So if you want to test it, set it like 1 minute into the future, and then click next, and says, what action do you want the task to perform? Well, I want it to start a program. I want it to hit to start an executable, which is the SPSS executable. And it says, okay, how am I to start this executable? And you say, use this .bat file. So you simply browse with the .bat file, And you get ctemp SPSS batch example.bat. That's the execute. That's going to contain all the information to execute it. And you hit next again, and you finish it. And then after a minute or so has passed, you'll see once again that the Windows DOS command window briefly opens along with the SPSS statistics logo, and you should find that the output file has been generated and saved to your chosen folder. And just to briefly demonstrate that, again, if I skip out to Windows here and we'll just go down to the search prompt, if I type in scheduler, you can see task scheduler comes up. Let's open that up. And then we say, okay, I want to create a basic task. So I'm just clicking on the actions here. Let's give it a name, SPSS example. We hit next. It says, when do you want the task to start? One time. When do you want it to start? Well, I want it 1 minute into the future here. So I'm going to put 10:27. Hit next. What do you want to do? Start a program. Where is this program? I browse to ctemp and I find my .bat file. So I've got this .bat file here. Let's have a look at it. There it is. SPSS example.bat. Hit next. What are you going to call it? SPSS example. Hit finish and then wait 1 minute for it to kick in. Okay, it started. And then if I go back to the ctemp folder, we should find that the SPV file test.spv has been created by that job. And that's it. Well, I do hope that you find that useful. Let me conclude by pointing out that our penultimate slide here contains links to a lot of really useful resources concerning how to use SPSS syntax and SPSS in general. You can get the PDF that accompanies this video from our website and download it yourself. Thanks very much.